while ago, you mentioned something about responding to emails, like.
So we're ready. Okay, I will bang the gavel for the first and second time today. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order and issue the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Lopez?
Here.
Oh, by the way, if you want to use the microphones, you have to touch it.
Right.
We probably don't have to use it for this meeting, but, or do we, Dave, for recording purposes? Okay, for recording purposes, if you can, just hold the button down when you're talking.
Mr. Hennis?
Here.
Oops, gotta turn them on first. Ms. Harrington? Here. And Mr. Kirby?
Here.
Okay, we have the board agenda review. Is that something that I'm going to hear from the superintendent?
Yes, you are. Okay. So, Member Lopez, members of the governing board, and especially for our new board members, during this item, you guys have all been given the regular agenda for tonight's 6:30 meeting. So this is the time, if you have any questions for me on anything in that agenda, I can answer them now so that we can answer them ahead of time and we don't have to necessarily go through all that in the regular meeting. So if you want to take a minute and just look at the agenda for the 6:30 meeting, and then I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Steve, one of the questions I got specifically with Ducey coming out and announcing his state of the potential that he's going to have a budget come out on Friday,
Yes.
that there were some different things I've been just kind of hearing or picking up that he might look at ways of discuss of what he kind of said about education or what it might affect us.
So, members of the governing board, what I know, I watched the state of the state, and then I've also had information that came out from GuppyMac, which we are members of, and as well as ASBA. And I think that's the big question right now is the unknown is what did he mean in his statement that they're not going to fund empty seats. I think that's the biggest challenge. Some people are taking that as maybe in a way, a threat that if we don't get kids back to school, that we're not going to get funded for them. Other people have interpreted it that, maybe it's the distance learning and knowing that, some of those kids are struggling with that distance learning piece. But what I've been told, I don't know for sure where we are, but I do know that on Friday, once a budget comes out and it has a chance to get discussed, I think that will shed some light on I think all of that's going to come to fruition on what he meant, but I don't have any more information right now on that, other than ASBA did come out and say on behalf of governing boards across the state that you all been put in a very, very peculiar situation and a tough situation to make decisions, and with really not a lot of support at the state level. We've been given guidance, but no real support. So that's all I really know at this point in time. We've all been told just to be patient and wait and see what comes of Friday.
Dr. Beaton, did you get a chance to read the dispatch article this morning on what Governor Ducey had said?
I had not seen the article this morning.
Okay. Because, excuse me, what I read was that the statements he made were pretty strong, but at the same time, either his secretary or someone that was behind him was saying, no, he didn't really mean that, he kind of meant this, but he would like to see the kids back in the classroom. So it was almost like a double speak. Like, I think he was serious about what he wanted to do, but there was quite a bit of backlash on it, so he kind of backpedaled a little bit.
Well, and to that, I had a GovMac superintendent meeting last Friday, and then I had an ASA superintendent meeting this Monday. And in both meetings, something that came up that I hadn't heard personally, but what I've been told by AASA, ASA, and now GovMac is that, and maybe you guys have heard it, it's out there that President-elect Biden has said that once he is officially in office, that he has a 100-day plan to get all schools in the United States open within 100 days, which is about 3.5 months. So a lot of us are wondering if some of Governor Ducey's statement may be in line with what may be to come. I hadn't heard that yet, but it's been confirmed by several organizations that has been the case, so he's making that statement. So that may be something in line with that.
The different things I heard on NPR this morning was just that they were pretty kind of adamant about concerns about ASBA specifically, and was concerned about specifically with Ducey's legal challenge to 208 that is still continuing. So I just wanted, just they mentioned, you only get right now, you get 100% for a physical kid in a seat, and you get 95% for online.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. So for our students who are in our modified in person, who are coming to school at least part-time, we get full ADM. For our students that are signed up for our AOI or online only, we are getting about 95% ADM for those kids. However, the grant that was issued, stabilization grant, is supposed to offset the cost of that for districts. However, if you talk to superintendents across the state, all of us have been underfunded. What we projected we were going to get and what we actually got is far different. So I think it's safe to say that nobody's getting, even with that grant, is going to get 100% of their ADM for their kids who are learning only online. Everybody's going to get a lesser dollar amount.
Were there any other comments regarding the agenda as far as comments that will be made there during the regular board meeting?
I think the only one was maybe a little bit explanation specifically, because I asked you about it the other day about what the MOU is for Gear Up, and maybe
Sure.
for the rest of the folks here so they understand what it is.
Absolutely. So Gear Up, let me go to the agenda. Let me go to the agenda item, and I don't have that file in front of me. Gear Up is a program that is designed to really help guide our kids in doing some different things as they're getting ready for post-high school. It's a grant funded, it's strictly voluntary to participate. We've had it in the past in our district where both schools participated, but at this point in time, I left it open to both principals on whether or not they were interested in going there, because we have so many things going on in our district right now. And so with that Gear Up program, Vista is, and the counseling department there are very interested in it, but I don't think Grande is interested in using it this year. So I told them both, if one of them was interested, that's all I needed to know. I would put it on the agenda so that we could move forward with that. But it's a resource to help kids. It also they work with our guidance staff just to make sure that kids are really, it's what it is. It's just like it is. They're gearing up for post-high school and getting ready, for what they're going to do beyond high school.
Good with that.
Yeah, I just want, just to clarify it, so since we have X number of counselors, correct?
Mhm.
That oversee 300, 400, 500 plus kids per group, per counselor. Does this help circumvent that and where resources and helping kids find, I'm just trying to figure if there's a value to this or?
I think the value, it's not that it circumvents or it makes our counselors have any less of a load. Already our counselors have a pretty significant caseload that they do. It doesn't necessarily reduce their caseload. It is more of a resource. It's more of a resource and a support that works for kids. So it's a resource that counselors and kids both benefit from in trying to guide kids and give kids our opportunities.
Good.
I have never had used Gear Up as a principal when I was a building principal. I know Brian, has, and I know Mr. Mabb just walked in. If you would like, he could probably do a better job of explaining it even than I, not to put him on the spot. But I'm sure he could if he would like. Would you mind, Brian, speaking? If you want, just come up to the microphone and you can just kind of give him the take of your experience with it. Thank you.
Talking about Europe?
Yes, Gear Up.
Good evening. So happy to answer any questions from my experience. Gear Up has been a phenomenal program in the past to really help students to be able to make that connection from high school to college. They do a variety of different things. On the base level, there's kind of a senior guide that counselors can use to walk them through and help make students and parents, families aware of their choices and opportunities in order to be able to move on to college and career. On kind of the higher end, there's usually a liaison with the college that also works with our students, will help them with their scholarships, their FAFSA, coordinate some of the FAFSA nights with counselors, and then usually there's some tracking that goes with it to kind of make sure that they are staying on track and accomplishing their goals. So that's kind of Gear Up in a nutshell, if you will.
Yeah, I think that was the question. So there's a value. I'm not trying to lessen counselors' load because they're maxed.
Oh, yes.
That's what I think in the past there's been concerns or issues with parents looking for, avenues for kids to find scholarships and to access colleges and do different stuff. And as opposed to the counselor just saying, kind of go in this direction. Here's where you go find that information. And mom and pop have to kind of go search it out and go from there. This kind of creates a method for them to just kind of
helps fill the void.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, there's no other items to discuss. We'll move on to item C. That would be the ADHS benchmarks and learning modality. Comments on that?
Well, Member Lopez, governing board members, this is just an opportunity right now. Again, this item is also on the regular agenda for the 6:30 meeting. At this point in time, we can't make decisions on this. Just a chance for us to have some discussion around what we're doing, what we know, the facts that we know, the ADHS benchmarks, the county benchmarks, where we've gone from there. I've tried to share all of that with you. I regularly send you guys the ADHS benchmarks. I also send you the Pinal County information that comes out. We all know that ADHS is 2 weeks in the rear, so everything we're seeing happened 2 weeks ago, so we always have to keep that in perspective. I also sent you this week, I got a chance to send you our Ds and Fs from both schools. And I also, today, I was able to send you just a snapshot of last year, first quarter pre-COVID. So you at least have a little benchmark to see where we are with all of that. But I also wanted to point out, as we look at this, as we look at, what decisions to make, I guess what I wanted to do is just remind the board, just essentially have two new board members to kind of go back in time. And when this all started, and we had to make some decisions because it was, we, as we all know, we were all abruptly shut down last March. Nobody had a choice. Schools were closed. We didn't have a choice, but coming back was a choice. And as we started to work our way back, one of the things we did is we delayed the start of school so we could have at least 10 days of professional development with our staff and really give teachers the opportunity and everything they needed to be ready for this year. I think that was proved itself to be very beneficial. We looked at the benchmarks and we as a board, you as a board had agreed that we would use the science, that we would use the benchmarks to kind of guide when it was safe to return to school. And the comment, and if I go back in the minutes, I think as a board, you had decided that as long as 2 of the 3 benchmarks were yellow and or green for 2 weeks, that we would consider coming back. That's the benchmark that we used on September 17th. We brought kids back in person who wanted to be in person. And I'm very proud of the run that we made. I think we did a really good job. Our teachers did an outstanding job, our administrators, the cleaning crews, we did everything we can to make that happen and for us to have that good run. But it was also that same science, that same data that you as a board used to make the decision 2 weeks before the semester ended to return only to online or virtual learning because the benchmarks were getting ready to turn, and they have now completely turned red. So I'm not sure where, since we do have 2 new board members, I'm not sure where you are. I can tell you that as a superintendent, for me, I tell this to people all the time, I have to, and you do, I have to balance what's best for kids and keeping our staff safe. And they have to be equally important. And I think we have to respect and keep our staff safe. We have to, we all know that what's best for kids is to be in school, in the classroom, and learn the way they're, that's a given. But we have to kind of find that balance. So, I said all along, I want kids back in school as long as it's safe to do so. And I think we have to look at both staff and students as we're making those decisions. So I'm not sure where we are, but I guess I'm hopeful that maybe the board would continue to use those benchmarks and that science that we've started to use this year as a baseline for, when it is safe for kids to come back to school this semester.
Okay. So I teaching full-time in Chandler, I can tell you from a teacher's perspective, teaching virtually is just awful. No one enjoys teaching virtually. It does strike me though as irresponsible for us to have kids in school when all of these parameters, when all these indicators are in the red. I'm mindful of the balance of protecting our staff and protecting our students. I wonder if it's a little bit of a false dichotomy only because while these students themselves may not be as vulnerable to COVID as their parents or their grandparents, their parents and their grandparents are. And we certainly want to avoid the issue of having one of their parents or their grandparents seriously ill. I want to see kids in school. But I also want to see kids with healthy parents and grandparents. My own grandfather, just this last weekend, was turned away from the hospital, not because he had COVID, but because there were no rooms left to give him. And that's not good for students either. So I think that as we have this discussion, we should look to balance both what is best for students academically and what is best for students emotionally. And we certainly want to ensure that their loved ones are safe. I think that's best for students.
So yeah, I'm in agreement pretty much with what everybody is saying. One thing that I've struggled with throughout this whole time, because my kids are going through all this as well, is, you know, there's no real data that shows that kids are giving it to each other. I feel that most of these kids that do get it from their family members. They go out and hang out with their friends or other family members. And I think right now it would be irresponsible to send them back in person just because our numbers are so high. But I think if we can get to a point where looks like there's some improvement, you know, at some point, even if there's a couple of reds, but if we're making improvement, you know, I don't see how it's unsafe if our students are going through all the proper precautions, wearing the mask, social distancing, keeping in their little groups. I mean, nobody talks about all the depression and everything that these kids are suffering from. And, you know, the parents that try to watch them and monitor them while they're on their Zoom calls, but they have to work as well. I mean, it's not ideal. We all know it. But yeah, I think right now, the way that the numbers are, it would be irresponsible to send them back on the 19th, which was the plan, unfortunately. But I certainly don't want to see them virtually for the rest of the year, if that can, you know, be helped.
Just to jump in one more time, I am really pleased with the hybrid model that you guys have been using. I think that that's really smart, really pragmatic, and a wonderful balance of those needs that you described. So in other words, once one of these indicators gets out of the red, I would love to see them return to that hybrid model as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think we're, the board is, obviously we've always felt that having kids in class, and my wife was a teacher, also just retired this past year, and she finished the end of last year for 3 months doing virtual, and it's not the best situation. But we do still have about 40% of kids and parents that want to do online only.
It's more like, yeah, it's a little less than that. It's probably about 35%.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things is I'm not in complete agreement of when things start to get back down into a fashion that it's safe to do it in a fashion. But right now, we just created a brand new color on this schedule, and if I read correctly in Mathxl County, we're running 20 to 25% positivity right now. So 1 in every 4. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can't even count in the past few days. I'm just talking to different folks of the number of people since Christmas that have come down or tested positive and are quarantining and doing stuff like that. So we're in a very dangerous situation right now. We're getting no help essentially from the government. Your dad is doing a wonderful job. And for the city of Casa Grande, Grande County is doing a good job. But it is truly questionable and scary times, and this thing's it's gotta come down in a hurry, get fast on the other side. And we've got good friends that are first responders, nurses, doctors, etc. Like you said, trying to get into a place. Got a good friend who's a doctor down in Tucson, and your son is a nurse down in Tucson, and they're maxed out. And nobody's thinking about those folks. I was having teachers, obviously, but nobody's thinking about those folks and the stress and pressure that they're under right now. So,
I think it's important to bear in mind as a board, as leaders in the district, that this conversation is not about our district, it's about our community.
Sure.
It's about what happens at Banner and what happens at our nursing homes. And so I think we need to take that wider community view as we have this discussion.
And Dr. Dugan, the board, I just wanted to ask a question regarding vaccines with the teachers and administrators. Where are we at with that? Because I do know that last December when we had our last meeting, one of the concerns was that we didn't have teachers. We were really lacking in substitutes as well. So where are we at with that?
Well, I can tell you, once again, I think it's been some false pretense around the COVID vaccine and how it was just gonna be the miracle that everybody's gonna get vaccinated, we're gonna have kids right back in school. I can tell you right now, and there's teachers in this room right now, it is virtually impossible right now to get the vaccine. What I learned, in fact, I learned it in the community affairs last week, it's estimated that we have approximately 38,000 people in our city, in our community, that would qualify for the Group 1B. The first round of shots or the vaccine to reach Pinal County was 3,800. So at that rate, 10 weeks from now, maybe everybody who wants to get a shot is going to get a shot. I know I was talking to Ms. Cole today. There are people who are now signing up, going to Cardinal Stadium, at all hours of the day, night to try to get a shot because you can. But I know here in talking with Pinal County, and they said that's kind of what it's going to continue. And as they get the next round of, 3,800 to 4,000 doses, then they open it up for appointments. Those appointments are gone, in a matter of hours, and then it's another 2 weeks, you have to wait again. So I think even all of our staff who want to get vaccinated, it's going to be a while before we can get everybody vaccinated.
So you're saying 8 to 10 weeks for our own staff and teachers to get vaccinated?
Well, that's that you do the math, 3,800 shots, and there's 38,000, it's going to take at least 10 weeks or 10 rounds of those shots to come in to get everybody vaccinated who wants them.
The other complicating factor, and I don't have any medical expertise, but from what I understand, even when someone is vaccinated, they can still transmit the virus. And so while a teacher may be safe, a teacher can still be a carrier to his or her students, or take the virus home from their students, their unvaccinated spouse or children.
Do you have any other comments regarding the benchmarks and the lending?
I just had one question from the email that you sent earlier today regarding the Ds and the Fs. I noticed there's quite a big difference between both schools and their numbers. Is that because one school has that many more kids attending than the other one?
Yes, Casa Grande Union is, 600 at least students more?
We're about 1,850 right now.
1,850, so, and they're about, so they're about 400 or 500, I guess, more students at one school. And also, if you look at those, I think initially when people thought we look at kids who were struggling, we would look at more kids in the online version versus the in-person version. And if you look at our data, that's not necessarily the case. So I think the reality is this year, because our staff is working their tails off to try to do what's best for kids. I was so impressed on January 4th, the professional development. I sent you guys a copy of that. Outstanding professional development for teachers. A lot of great dialogue went on. A lot of things are doing. The reality is, and remember Kirby talked about it already, the social and emotional. Kids are stressed right now, and I don't know that we're getting the best effort from our kids right now this year because they're tired of playing this game too.
I don't mean to be dismissive of the high numbers of Ds and Fs. I think it's something we ought to be concerned about. But at the same time, I do wonder if there's a degree to which concern about our Ds and Fs is putting the cart before the horse a little bit. I agree. I think kids are stressed. I think learning online is difficult. And until we can get I think the hard truth is until we can get the pandemic in control as a community, I think our kids are, I think we should expect our kids' academic performance to be a little lower.
Yeah, I think, across, that this is gonna be, for across the world, this is gonna be a tough year. Just, and educationally specifically, it's just, and emotionally for kids, et cetera. One of the questions I had and I was glad you asked the question to see, compare for 2019, 2020. One thing I was looking at, and I can't remember if I looked at it right or not, was there a kind of a higher proportion of the seniors that had D's or F's for some reason. I can't remember when I was looking at it.
Well,
Juniors.
I'm one of them. Yeah, there was, well, we have to look at both schools, because I don't have both schools as a district, I just have them separately. But if you look at, if you're comparing, if you're like, let's just look at Cascade and Union, if you're comparing 1920, first semester last year to this year, I think if you look at by grade level, there were about, senior, it was the juniors that had the highest. There were 1,698 juniors, where this year there's 1,494. So there was actually more last year than this year. Seniors this year, at Union, they're a little bit higher. They went from 966 to 1178. And actually, believe it or not, the freshmen a year ago were at 2236 DZS. This year are at 1296. So, not, that 1200 is nothing, but it's better than it was. And some of those freshmen, we've never met because they chose online. They've never been on our campuses other than the kids in the bodies. They've never been on our campuses. So we've never even met them. And then, the sophomores, a year ago were 1384 to 1212. And if we look at Vista, Vista a year ago, ninth graders were 785. This year there was 1141. Sophomore 791. This year 1207. And then again, the 11th grade, there was 1,004 a year ago. There's 1,080 this year. So, pretty much the same. And then seniors, a year ago, there was only 250. This year, there's 900. And so, yeah, there's some struggle. One of our things we're working on right now is what are we going to do as a district? How are we going to do as a school for remediation? Because we've got to try to find a way to fix this. We got to help kids get across that finish line. And so we're going to focus on our seniors first, and we may even use some remediation for seniors over spring break this year, because we got to get them graduated, and then we can go from there. But summer school may be bigger than it's ever been. It may be 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks. There's a lot of things we may have to do to try to get kids. But one of the things is if we can get kids back in person and do summer school, the impact and the success rate is double what it would be if you try to do it online. And that was, if you remember right, going into all of this, our summer school that we would traditionally have last year was only virtual. And so it was, I think it's safe to say it was less than, was not nearly as the success we normally have when you can have kids in person. So.
Now, what I found is I think what's happened was when the kids got sent home around spring break last year, and everybody was scrambling to figure out what was going on, how to do things. When they came back virtually only, it seemed like they got a hall pass, and they weren't really, nobody really cared if they did the work to the full, because they felt bad because we were all scrambling. And then we came back for the fall, and we had a better plan, but at the same point, I still feel like they're not being held accountable as much as they would if they were in person. And so I think that mentality needs to shift somewhat so that, hey, we're all in this boat together. You're still, in need of doing your responsibilities and all that, but how do you get that message across? And how do we do that, especially, if you don't have all the parental guidance in every family, to help push our kids along. Hi.
Well, I appreciate that comment, because I think to our teachers' credit, and our teachers have been amazing this year. And I think that's true. I think we've all realized that schools across the country, you were hard pressed to really hold kids accountable for that fourth quarter last year, because it was all unknown and everybody was thrown into the mix of, so, we took the high road, and you don't want to hurt kids when it really wasn't their fault. At the same time, I agree. I think a lot of kids came into this year thinking they were going to get a free pass. I think a lot of kids signed up for online learning thinking it was just going to be a piece of cake and they weren't really going to have to go to school. But I think that our teachers have really bent over backwards to really try to, normally when you hold that hard line, trying to get a hold of a kid and by the hand and, drag them across that line because we want them to be successful. So it's just finding that balance.
One other question, the elementary school, the high school and the elementary school this coming year are going to a modified schedule, correct?
Yes.
So the question is, when are we actually I was trying to remember what the dates were we were actually talking about starting school next year?
Mary, do you have that calendar, next year's calendar?
Yes.
She can tell you directly. And for what she's looking for the new board members, last year we created a joint calendar committee from our district and the Cascade Elementary District. So we actually got on the same page with a 3-year calendar for both districts. So it would benefit our parents so that we're actually, instead of trying to match each other, we're actually working together to have the same calendar.
July 26th is the first day.
Which that's gonna limit, how long we can go into summer, with summer school and everything else, what we need to do to try to catch kids back up.
It'll result in longer spring and fall breaks though, right? 2 weeks.
Correct,
Yeah, that's great.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And then again, the hope there is that we can do remediation for 1 week during fall break and spring break. And even if we needed to into the winter, so we could again use that time before kids who are struggling, before they can get too far behind, we can try to catch them back up.
Yeah, what were some of Ducey's also comments about extending the day, and there were some other things he was throwing out there the other day?
He threw a lot of things out there that I'm not sure that I can even wrap my head around. So I've got no explanation. I have his exact speech on my desktop, I don't know where he was going today, kids going longer. I mean, we've had that conversation in education for a lot of years, but in this country, kids don't go to school for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, watching his speech, it struck me as a lot of political posturing. And maybe just to state the obvious, and not to be dismissive of his comments, we should take him seriously, but I think we should maybe take them more seriously once we see what a budget looks like, to see how much was fun political language and how much is actual policy.
And
Well, he's already said he plans to cut taxes very hard, especially because he's cut taxes each year in some little fashion whatsoever. So one of the places that he loves to cut taxes is on school.
yeah, and that's one of the things I think, and that's one of the things we've been told is wait till Friday, till everything starts to hit the budget, and then we'll have a better idea of where we're going and what was meant by some of the things that were said like this.
I have a question for Mr. Wagner, if he's willing to come up to the dais here. What about the skills classes that are going on right now? Is that mostly something that's just being done also virtually? And if so, how are you doing that so that we can get some kind of tangible results from these kids learning these trades?
Do I really need to stand at the microphone? Because
That's okay. You can stay right there.
creatively, to put one word to your question, creatively. Many of the CTE classes are introducing a modified type of curriculum where it's going to be the face-to-face and then a project of some sort. Last semester, as an example, the childcare facility had flower babies instead of real children to work with. So that was interesting to see bags of flour walking around, some of them not making it. And that was in that 5-week period of in-person. Right now in my class, I can speak for that. I have my beginning year students looking at plans and prints, and we're talking about how construction occurs in the beginning phases. And I am going to be sending home project materials pre-cut by me and my para, and they will assemble a small carpentry style project. My second years, I sent home after spending 6 hours cutting 1.25 by 6-inch long pieces, 1.25 thick, 6 inches long, sent home wood, like balsa wood size, except I'm cheap and I cut it all myself. Saved a little bit of money there. And they're going to be building model sheds. So not exactly how I want to be doing it, teaching framing, because they missed it last spring. So I got to catch them back up. And then my advanced students, we kind of taken a little bit more a step in the college type of direction. And I'm introducing a little bit higher level industrial carpentry, blending my college class and kind of bringing in my high school students who didn't want the college class and showing them kind of what's going on out there, and which will also lead to job opportunities with sons. It kind of can advance their career. Automotive is doing a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of interactive learning, a lot of walk out there, video you pointing to parts on the vehicle, identification, things like that. We can't really give students a lot of responsibility on maintaining or trying to make repairs, things like that, because that can go badly. And then agriculture, I can speak for them. They are out there in an intermediate kind of situation where kids will come in, again, distancing each other physically, collecting the eggs, maintaining the crops that are out there. And then in the virtual setting, they're also learning about welding, what the process is, but not everybody has the equipment to be able to do the process itself. So it's tough, but we're managing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wagner. Okay, excuse me, if there's nothing else, then I would call for adjournment. We can get the motion for that.
I'll move to adjourn to the next meeting at 6:30.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Mrs. Harrington,
Here.
and Mr. Kirby.
Here.
Okay, before we begin the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, and I would like to ask you all to please remain standing after we do the pledge. I do want to welcome everyone here, administrators, parents, and students, to the new year. Look forward to a nice new year here. So I just want to welcome everyone tonight. Let's all stand, please. We can do the Pledge of Allegiance. Like I said, please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may all be seated. Okay, to begin tonight's meeting, we are going to start with our organizational meeting. Part of it, that would be the election of our new board president for the upcoming year. I'm going to call for nominations, so if I can have nominations from the board, please. And I will start. I'd like to nominate Mr. Jack Hennis to be our incoming president. He's had a lot of experience in this particular field, and I think he would make an excellent president for the upcoming year. So I'd like to elect Mr. Jack Hennis.
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations for the board as far as the president? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis.
Is it really okay to vote for yourself or not?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
and Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations, Mr. Hennis. You may take over the meeting.
Yeah, hold on.
Boy. Next on the agenda is the election of the president pro tem. If I could get a nomination, if we could, please.
Well, then I'll step up to the plate and nominate myself for president pro tem.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, hearing no other calls for that, I'll close the nomination and call for election of Mr. Joe Lopez for president pro tem. All in favor?
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
and Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Number 3 on the agenda tonight is board of legislative representatives. Historically, I think Chuck Wright has been the representative for that.
Yes, he has been, but he is not able to be with us here tonight, so I did not have any discussion with him and if he had any desire to continue.
So it's best to nominate people when they're not here, right? That's how I've wound up in the seat a couple times. When I didn't expect it, so.
Is it possible to table this nomination until Chuck is with us?
I think if you want to nominate him, I'm sure he wouldn't deny it. I mean.
It would be best if we could move forward so we complete the board, but I can tell you, he has been the legislative representative. I don't know that he would be upset or decline it. It's just unfortunately he couldn't be tonight.
Well, I'll nominate Chuck, come what may.
I'll second that nomination. Okay, with that, we'll close that, the slate and offer up Chuck Wright as the board legislative representative.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
and Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
All right, number 3 tonight is to adopt the addendum that was presented to you. And so I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
We got one more thing.
Oh, sorry, the meeting times.
Meeting times.
The meeting times, I think you have annual meeting times in front of you if you'd like to approve those.
So we just need a motion to approve to continue with the first Tuesday of the month at 6:30 for meeting time.
I will make that motion to continue meeting the first Tuesday of the month at 6:30.
I'll second it.
Okay, hearing a motion, I'll move to close that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Now we'll move down to number 3, or number 8, under 3 preliminary items, adopt an agenda. Take a motion for this, please.
I move to adopt the agenda of January 12, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second on that. Any other further? We'll go ahead and call for the vote on that, on the agenda.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Ms. Harrington,
Yes.
and Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Also, you have before you have the minutes from December 1st and 15th, 2020 as presented. I need a motion to approve those as presented to us.
I will make the motion to approve the minutes for December 1st and the 15th, 2020 as presented.
Second.
Got a second from Mrs. Harrington, and with that, we'll go ahead and close that. We'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Ms. Harrington,
Yes.
and Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Excellent. Now we're down to the fun part of the evening. So recognition, I'll turn this over to Dr. Beebe for Students of the Month.
President Hennis, members of the governing board, before we do our Students of the Month, we'll start with our Rotary Students of the Month. I just want to let everybody in the audience know, traditionally, we have had our students, after they're recognized, go around the dais and be able to shake hands or fist bump. In light of COVID and everything that's going on, we are going to discontinue that practice, at least for right now. So we would love to congratulate you, but we would have you not go through the dais. And again, we want to respect everybody's social distance. So we'll start with our Rotary Students of the Month. So Mr. Matt, you are up first.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be in front of each of you today. Our new board president, congratulations, and appreciate others joining us. I'd like to invite up, and I'm sorry with mass, I'm struggling to see Victoria. There you are. Sorry, Victoria. Come on up. So Victoria is our Rotary Student of the Month from Casa Grande. Congratulations. But she doesn't get off the hook with just accepting. I got to tell a little bit about her. So her parents are Todd and is it Aileen? Eileen Shrinkoff. And some of the things that Victoria is known for is she's been part of the swim team for the past 4 years. And during that time, she's been one of the team captains both her junior and senior year. She's participated in a number of clubs, including Key Club, Link Crew, and member of National Honor Society. Really neat is that she's in a medical assistant program at Cabot as well. She says that some of her personal accomplishments and activities is that she loves helping the community, which I just think is very noble of her. That's wonderful. And that to really show that over the past 3 summers, she's been a junior lifeguard at the pool and also helps as a coach for a lot of the youth sports programs, including youth soccer and t-ball. So really neat to see how she gives back. She hopes to move forward after graduating with plans to go to CAC and use her scholarship for the Promise to the Future, complete her prerequisites there. And then she wants to go to the University of Arizona, where she will study criminology and forensic science. So congratulations, Victoria.
Okay, Ms. Cole, Mr. Grande, Rotary Student of the Month.
Good evening, members of the Casa Grande Union High School District School Board, Mr. President, Dr. Beebe. Tonight, the student that I would like to honor from Vista Grande is Aurora Yoder. However, Aurora is not able to be here this evening. She is not feeling well, but I'd still like to talk about her a little bit, and I hope she's getting a chance to watch because I did email her and her parents today. Just so you all are aware, Rotary Student of the Month is chosen by all of the teachers. A ballot is sent out, and the teachers, these nominations come from the teachers. So Aurora is the daughter of Rachel Gonzalez and Simon Yoder. She's been involved in Vista Grande's theater troupe for all 4 years of high school. And she was treasurer from 2018, 19, and membership officer from 19 to present. She's been a member of Vista Grande Skills USA chapter since 2018, historian in 2019, and president 2020 to present. She's participated in multiple competitions, conferences, and camps with both programs. She placed as a finalist in Black Box Foundation 10-minute play in 2018, and she has been working since August 2018 when she was 16 at both Sonic and Culver's. Wow, that's preparation for life when you're a waitress or a server anywhere, isn't it? So, yay, Aurora. Her career goals are to go to college, and she wants to get her doctorate in psychology. And during this time, she also has a personal goal to learn Spanish and American Sign Language fluently because she believes she can help more clients in her field of work that way. She eventually plans to open her own office and work as a licensed psychiatrist. Aurora Yoder.
Employees of the month?
No, we have CTE.
Yes, CTE. Apologize, sorry about that. Steve.
Thank you, Aiden. President Hennis, Dr. Beebe, board members, I'm honored this evening to be able to recognize two students from each of our culinary programs, one at Cascade Union and at Vista Grande. One of our recipients isn't able to attend. She's not feeling well, but like Glenda said, we emailed them the link, so hopefully they're watching. First, from Vista Grande High School Culinary Arts Program, we have Aiden Pitts. Aiden was nominated by his culinary teacher, Ms. Kim Raines. Mrs. Raines says that Aiden has been a culinary student for 4 years and has become the first ever super intern in the program. He has grown into a wonderfully responsible young man, anticipating and accommodating the needs of his teacher and other students. He often enthusiastically represents the program on recruiting activities, and he passed the state assessment as a sophomore for culinary. He is a great team player, confident program representative, and a quality character. Aiden, congratulations. This is wrapped, so it's, other than I touched it. And Aiden's parents are, so take the wrapping off and throw it away. Aiden's parents are Michelle Kusher and Oliver Pitts. Aiden, congratulations. Next, we have Brent Eaton from Grande Union High School. Brent was nominated by her culinary teacher, Mr. Kevin Curtis. Brent is a junior and second-year culinary student with a 4.133 GPA. Mr. Curtis says she has excellent attendance in both synchronous and asynchronous learning. She is always engaged, very pleasant, and is thorough and creative. Brent is truly a tremendous asset to the culinary program at Grande Union High School, and Brent's parents are Jeffrey and Stacy Heaton. So Brent, congratulations. Hopefully you're watching.
Thank you, Steve. Congratulations. Looks like Dad's got the important job of keeping a close eye on the baby over right there. We'll move down to number P, Employees of the Month, Dr. Beebe.
President Hennis, members of the governing board, at this time, I'm going to invite Mary Ann Emerson to come up to the podium and read the names of the employees of the month for the month of January. Employees of the month, again, for your safety, when your name is read, please come up. Your plaque is right here, and I'll let you pick up your own plaque, and we can congratulate you.
Glenda Cole. Elena Kalan. Robert Palacios. David Keaton. Jason Shear. James Shapiro. Stacy Brady.
You bet.
Congratulations.
And Brianna Sundell.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. Down number 5, calls to the public. There's no calls to the public. There's no call to the public this evening, so we'll then move down to reports and presentations. Dr. Beebe, Superintendent's report, please.
President Hennis, members of the governing board. For my report, I would first like to formally welcome our newest board members, Ms. Kelly Harrington, and Mr. Taylor Kirby. And I'd like to just pause for just a minute, just to give you both just a second to introduce yourself to the public before I move on. So, Kelly, would you like to go first?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Kelly Harrington. I am a realtor in our community here in Casa Grande. My kids go to school in the elementary school district right now, but soon to be the high school district. Very active in the community as far as volunteering for things, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Kirby. My daughter is also in the elementary school district. She's a kindergartner. I've had the pleasure of facilitating a lot of her virtual learning. So I can say I feel the pain as both a parent and a teacher when it comes to the virtual learning. I myself am a teacher. I teach in the Chandler district. My wife and I are from Mesa. We've been living here in Casa Grande for 4 years now, and really excited to serve the community.
Welcome to both of you, and thank you. For starters, before I get into my actual report, I also would like to say a big thank you to some people. This beautiful dais that you are now sitting behind gives us the ability to all be back here and be socially distanced. I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Tim Mace and his crew. They have built this thing for us. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Steve Sykes. The district logo that you will see in some of these metals cut, he still has the expertise on how to run that machine and make it done. So thank you to everybody involved in putting this together so that we can have our board meetings in public and stay socially distanced. Beginning, just some information for you. Beginning January 19th, ADE is now going to be hosting a 30-minute weekly superintendent briefing. So I was very excited to do that. One of the first they've done. So starting that week, superintendents will have the ability to log on and just be briefed by what's going on in the state. And I don't think we've had that. Well, I know we haven't had that in any time, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Also, to let you know, our district, as well as many other districts, are ESSER 2, or it's now known as the CRSSA, is that money that we got initially. In ESSER we got about $740,635, for expenditures and things that are going to be COVID related. In the ESSER 2, we don't have an exact amount right now, but what they're saying is that we should roughly expect approximately 4 times what we got in the initial thing. So that's good thing to have, and again, all of us in education are needing that as we're trying to battle this disease and to get kids back in school. There's 4 criteria for that. It's addressing learning loss, school facilities repair and improvement for safety and COVID related, equitable services, which is not required, and then they're also offering now this emergency assistance for non-public schools. So that's something that's new from there. Moving on then with my actual report, big congratulations to the Casa Grande Union Cougar varsity football team and Coach Barrow and his staff for making it to the semifinals of the 4A state playoffs. This was a first in school history, and I think it's safe to say they represented Casa Grande well. So congratulations to them. I'd like to say a big congratulations to the following Vista Grande varsity football players who were named to the Copper Sky All Regions team. Offensive Player of the Year was Tyrese Constable. First team players, Donald Altifer, Tyrese Constable, Jace Atkins, Daniel Alleman, Skylar Higdon, Calvin Velasquez. We're all first team. Second team, Luis Tejas, Carson Miner, Christopher Hernandez, and Jaden Keith. Defensive first team, Tyrese Constable, Calvin Velasquez, Aya Chavez, Luis Tejas, Kenyon Caldwell, Christopher Hernandez. And second team defense, Damian Cruz, Michael Easley, Jace Atkins, Jeffrey Earls. And special teams player of the year was Jace Atkins, who was the senior punter. First team, Jace Atkins, Christopher Hernandez, Elia Contreras, who was a long snapper, and second team, Tyrese Constable. And then academic all region, Calvin Velasquez, who was a senior. So congratulations to them. Also, a big congratulations to the following Casa Grande Union varsity football players who were named to the 4A, 5A academic all-state football team. Kevin White, Angel Flores, Jake Silvestri, and Anthony Flores. So congratulations to all of them. I know, in my long time in sports, colleges love it when they can bring athletes to college to play sports on an academic scholarship. So it's very nice. Also want to say congratulations to Coach Mummer and Coach Reagan at the Vista Grande Cheer Squad for advancing to the final round of their first ever AIA Game Day Championship competition on Saturday, December 12th at Chaparral High School. So congratulations to them. Big congratulations to the Casa Grande Union robotics team, the Mechanized Robotics. They received donations from Microchip Technology Incorporated, employees totaling $1,200. A special thanks to Warren Carr, John Buckwitz, Benjamin Gross, Stephen Ogler, Rita Olson, and Senator Olson for their generosity for that. And then, as many of you may know, come rain or shine or COVID, the Casa Grande Union FFA State Fry went on as a drive-through event, and they served over 1,524 state dinners in their drive-through on the 10th. So in just under 3 hours. They said they couldn't have done it without the help of everyone involved from their FFA alumni and sponsors. They also want to say thank you for the continued support from our community for that. And hopefully it's the last time we have to do it as a drive-through event. So, and then finally, I want to say a big congratulations to Casa Grande Union High School and their staff for being named the best public high school in this year's Greatest of the Grande competition. So anyway, always fun to talk about the good things happening in our district. So that concludes my report.
Sounds good. B is the information and technology present. B is the information and technology presentation. Dave?
I'm going to get it without my glasses. Here we go. President Hennis, members of the board, Dr. Beatty, thanks for the opportunity to kind of showcase what we have going on in the IT department here in Casa Grande Union High School District. And I kind of like to start everything with the end in mind. It's one of the 7 habits, of course. But when you think about it, that's the end that we're all aimed at supporting. We are a support department. Our whole goal is to make sure everything that they need is in place and working as often as possible. And I think we've done a pretty good job of it considering what this last year has dealt us. It's been a pretty trying time with everything that has happened with COVID. There's no way we could have done this without the team I've got though. And with that, I'm going to let you see who these people are and what they do, it'll kind of give you an idea who's covering what as we go into the presentation. Nevin Kratzer and Stephen Fillion, they're the site technicians. They're the ones that actually provide direct support to the classrooms, students, office workers. They're pretty much one-stop shop. They can pretty much fix anything they have going on. Projectors, printers, computers, all the special systems we have, document counters, things like that. They do a wonderful job of keeping our teachers moving along. The service center techs, I don't know how they do it. They deal with all of the student devices. We have 3,800 of those devices every year that we have to put up at the beginning. Well, not this year because we couldn't get our hands on them, but they're the ones that make sure everything is up and ready for the kids on the first day of school. And they do a wonderful job at that. Phil Mummy, the help desk. That's the gentleman you'll get when you call the tech number for support. We have parents calling in, students, teachers. It's been a pretty busy time for him as well. We actually provided some support with the some of the paras at the beginning of the year, just to handle that first line of defense kind of stuff. What's my password? How do I get to Blackboard? Those types of things. And Frank Fiore, he's the gentleman supporting all of the special systems like phones, security systems, cameras, and pretty much anything you can think of. He's the one that they actually call it Frankenstein, because if it's a device, he will figure out some way to make it work. Janine Leary supporting all of the curriculum type systems that teachers are using in the classroom. She also provides direct support to the teachers on use of the tools in the systems and professional development. And Lauren Martinez, she's the one that's responsible for our PowerSchool student management system, as well as the student registration system. And she also does professional development. And again, without these people, there's no way we would pull everything off. They've done a tremendous job. And on the devices, we're in a really good position as far as how we came in. If there was a way to go into a situation like the COVID-19 problem, we were in position to do it. We were already one-to-one. We had all of our collaboration systems in place. So we were really fortunate to have those types of things in line already. And teacher devices. New this year, we're going to be rolling out the Microsoft Surface to the teachers to replace their aging Lenovo devices. I think they're going to like these quite a bit better. They've been really successful with us in administration, so we're going to push it out to the rest of the district. Office 365, that's our primary platform. I'm sure you're all familiar with Zoom. Here in Grande Union High School District, we use the Microsoft Office 365 platform, and that includes Teams, which is functionally equivalent to what Zoom has, except for it's also tied into all of our other products in the productivity suite. Outlook for email, OneDrive cloud storage, and the productivity tools, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so forth. And this was another piece of we were in a good position. The only thing we needed to do when everything hit was provide professional development, because it hadn't really been leveraged at that point. And this is a quick overview of the primary systems that we have for the classrooms for the different disciplines. And I believe Melanie is going to go over some of these a little bit as well, with a little more depth of knowledge on them. These are Janine Leary, the Educational Systems Manager. These are her direct supports.
Dave, just a question for you.
Sure.
On the Teams in particular, since you mentioned it's kind of a Zoom equivalent, can you essentially, I mean, you can live classroom? So, I mean, where a teacher could use it as they're using as far as trying to do instruction, right?
Yeah, the teachers using that, all of the teachers are using that to communicate with the kids in video sessions. We also support parent notification systems. We have the district app, which pushes out to email, SMS, social media platforms and things like that. And then the bright arrow one there is actually a piece of PowerSchool
and use that for notifications based on whatever criteria we pick in PowerSchool, or teachers can also use it to send out notifications for missing assignments and things like that. Printing systems. It's kind of neat because you can actually sit at any computer and print to what's called just a print queue, walk up to any printer in the district and put your code in and get your documents out. So it's worked out pretty well.
So that's a little bit different than the back in the day of Dottie Breckwright when she used
It's very different.
manage the whole printing operation.
One big printer.
Dottie Breckwright, so you want stuff to go.
Yeah, and she was definitely good at what she did too.
Very good what she did.
Yeah. Another one of the classroom level things is the Action Tech, and that's actually what we're using to connect to these TVs. So you can just use any device, connect to it wirelessly, and it's kind of cool for the teachers because they can actually, let a student connect if they want to, if they're doing their presentation, instead of having to shuffle devices and things like that. So that's pretty cool. We have a central surveillance system as well. It's managed at the district office, but it's segmented out to Casa Grande, Vista Grande, and the district office. There's 3 separate segments. Principals have access to it. They can access it from home, things like that. Keep an eye on the site while they're not actually on site. The district phone system, we installed this a few years back when E-rate quit funding phone systems for the schools. And we've actually expanded it. It's had some additional features added onto it over the years. So yeah, it does function as a phone system, and we have our 911 services loaded on it now. But we also have the benefit of having soft phones where we can load a soft version of the phone on a computer. That way you can leverage the phone system from home or whatever, and then it would appear that you're in the office. That way people don't have to use their cell phones to be making business calls and things like that. It's also now tied into Casa Grande's intercom system. It is running the intercom system now, and we'll be expanding that up to Vista Grande. So it'll handle your bell schedules and things like that. But ultimately, the idea was to get it to the emergency broadcast if there's ever a need where we needed to put out an emergency notification. We now have that capability through this phone system. Here's the meat and potatoes for the infrastructure of the system. We have currently a 1 gig connection to Cox Internet, which is, it's pretty robust. We run about 47% utilization on average. So there's some space there. Of course, with everything that's going on, we're going to start having more demands because with everything we're learning and the video streaming that we're doing, it doesn't impact us right now because we have limited staff and all the kids are at home, so we're not carrying all that traffic. But I know that it's going to have to watch. It's going to carry forth. Even once COVID's gone, the technologies and the things that have been put into place are going to continue to be used. So looking forward, we've partnered with the county consortium and we'll expand that as soon as our contract with Cox goes out, and we're going to expand it to a 10-gig connection, which will give us plenty of bandwidth to cover everything. Kind of like going from, I don't want to call our Cox 1 gig VW Beetle. I'll call it a Mustang, nice powerful car. Does a great job. We're going to upgrade to a Bugatti though.
Nice.
We also have 1 gig connections up in the 2 sites. All of our internet comes in here, and then it's distributed out to the 2 high school districts, or the 2 high school sites. We just wrapped up last year, completely upgrading all of our Wi-Fi on campus. Anywhere you go now, you should have a wireless signal. It even stretches out into the parking lots in some areas. And we've actually had some students come in that needed to get onto the network and sit in a parking lot. And you can do it out here as well. If you have a district device, you drive up, access what you need to access, and then be on about your way.
We support how many hotspots? Did you have a bunch of?
Yes, we have 411 hotspots right now. It's been checked out to students. We have a few more. There's some areas where one vendor covers better than the other. So we've got some from multiple vendors. We're gonna kind of shuffle them and get people on whatever fits best in their area. So we'll ultimately wind up with about 450. We also have space on the Grande building and soon to be the Vista Grande building with Link. And so we'll be providing internet access to, or they will be providing internet access to the families for free with the acquisition of a router. So $150 expense. You have free internet as long as you're a student. That's actually all part of our EWalk, our equitable wireless off campus. Here at the district, we also have a power protection on all of our data center equipment. So when power goes out, we have a UPS, which is just a battery backup. It keeps everything running long enough for our generator to kick in. And our generator is actually running on house gas. So we can run it indefinitely, and we won't have to worry about power outages at all. So that's really, it makes me sleep better, and I know that's all. And this is this is kind of like my little fun fact. E-rate covers 80% of the items that we pay for infrastructure, for internet, wireless connectivity to the sites, routing, switching, all the gear that's stuck back in the closets that nobody knows about. There's a bunch of blinking lights. Well, E-rate helps pay for that. And the way it works, they actually have a little federal universal service charge on all of your phone bills. So you can look up and see how much you're paying. That money is going to us to keep our infrastructure up to snuff and where it needs to be. And this is what we actually use money for on an annual basis. And this is a ballpark. It fluctuates from year to year. But you can see with those dollar signs on the E-rate 80% portion are kind of scary. And our portion isn't quite so hard to pay. So without that money, we would probably not be able to afford a lot of what we've done. And that is it, unless anybody has any questions on anything to do with technology.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Were the district to move to a complete virtual model, what would you what would you need from the board, or generally would in terms of technology, would students be prepared to switch over to a full virtual situation? You said we're already one-to-one with laptops, and it sounds like students have hotspots.
And we're working virtually right now. So yeah, they are covered. Everything is covered except for the few hotspot issues that we have to deal with.
Right.
And other than that, they are actually up and doing it right now. So again, very fortunate that we were in that position. We didn't have to scramble like a lot of districts did.
And remember, Kirby, if I might add, part of the MITRE link that Dave just spoke about, the city has designated money for our district with their CARES money that we have not touched yet, because we are hoping to use it in conjunction with MITRE link, that maybe we might be able to help some of those families who don't have the money for routers or whatever we can do to make sure we get that technology.
And it'll be just like our hotspots. We'll check it out. You can use it, we check it back in, and then that way you retain possession of the device.
Any other questions for Dave? Dave, thanks, and we truly appreciate all that you do, especially in these times right now. I mean, it's a virtual world, so thank you so very much.
This whole team back here,
All you guys.
they're all doing that.
Yeah, well, I fill a Red Bull if you would, please, or whatever.
No, we don't want to buy him any more Red Bull.
If I remember correctly, you used to have a whole wall in his little office that was covered with associated drinks. Thank you, Dave, appreciate it.
You bet.
Next up is curriculum and instruction with Melanie Edwards.
I will tell you, I've been given, you don't know, but I've received like 12 text messages. Melanie, you only get 10 minutes. you only get 10 minutes. Some of you have been privy to that conversation or that warning, so good evening. Congratulations, President Hennis. Welcome, Mr. Lopez, good to see you. Welcome, Mrs. Harrington and Mr. Kirby and Dr. Beebe. Thank you so much for allowing us to present a little bit of information about our departments. I'm Melanie Edwards. I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. You notice our department was established in 2013 and 14. We did not have a curriculum department in our district. And so I'm proud to say, I can't believe that much time has gone. I kept thinking they're going to let me go back to the sites because I didn't want to cross over to the dark side. And now I'm here. And it has been an amazing experience. So I wanted to introduce you first to my department. We were a department of one for the first year, which was terrifying. I was a teacher in the district when I started. I think I'm going on my 15th year. Mr. Hennis, I think I met you on the board, President Hennis, and became an administrator after, went to Vista Grande, started at Union, went to Vista Grande, went back to Union as an administrator and came here to the district. I think 7 years ago now, I believe. So a little bit about myself. Kim Martin is she's my administrative assistant and she's our data collection specialist for the district. I will tell you, I openly and blatantly stole her from Union. I didn't have an administrative assistant as an assistant principal there, and Kim could run Excel spreadsheets like nobody's business. And I said, I need her. And she is that calm voice when I'm the one in red freaking out in the other room. Kim is very calm. I do this a lot, and Kim's like, it's okay, it's all right. So she's the person who answers our phones and helps keep me calm. Chantel Frazee, actually, it's Dr. Chantel Frazee, came to us 2 years ago. She comes to us from LA. She worked with inner city schools and at-risk students and had an opportunity to come back to Arizona where her family is from and came to us 2 years ago. She's overqualified for everything we have her doing, but she is a phenomenal addition to our district. She oversees our professional development. She's a CAT or CTE liaison between the high school district and our feeder schools. And she's well worth, we can't give this woman enough praise and money. She really is amazing. Our professional developments, when you think about professional development and where it came from at the inception of this department, I wrote it, I developed it, it was bad, and then I delivered it, and these poor teachers had to listen to me all the time. So Chantel has really brought an amazing professionalism, truly has engaged our staff to be our teacher presenters from within. They are phenomenal. So we're really happy. She's also a new mommy. She has a young baby. I think Jackson is around 9 months old right now, and he's just adorable. Mr. Mount started with us. He's our instructional specialist, started as an English teacher over at Vista, and I snagged him. He worked on a summer committee with me, and he was amazing. And we had 2 new positions available for instructional coaching, and I said, all right, Alistair, come on, I'm moving into my world. And he's been phenomenal. Alistair's a father of 5, by the way, and he wears many, many, many hats in our district. This team, we could not have gotten where our teachers are and our kids are today without the support of obviously our directors, our principals, our teachers. But these people right here save the curriculum and instruction component, which is what our teachers do. They are the lifeblood, and building capacity in our staff and the professional development, getting us where we are today and enable us to teach our kids. And so I just, again, don't get to publicly thank them very often, and I want to take a moment to pause and say thank you to them. So curriculum, how has it changed? Well, curriculum isn't a textbook, and I suppose I want everyone here to understand that. What does the curriculum department do? We align curriculum with the state standards. It's not enough to give a teacher a book anymore. It's not enough to have them work with software on the computer anymore or have a smart board, right? I started with overheads 100,000 years ago, so I remember the stains on my hands from the oldest school district in the world, and I was running those ditto machines. That was year 1. Aligning curriculum with our state standards has been quite a monumental task. And the courses, the state changes courses and standards Every once in a while, they update. And so our curriculum department has to make sure that all of our courses are aligned with those state standards, and that they meet the standards of what makes an Algebra 1 course. You know, do we have the components in place? Because it's high school and these are credits, it becomes very, very serious and very important for our students to meet those standards. NCAA, do we meet their requirements so that we don't jeopardize our student athletes? We revise curriculum to meet the needs of our students. So we look at our pre-test, our benchmarks, our post-test. And curriculum is a living document. It does not, you don't ever fix it once and you're done. I've had teachers before say, oh my gosh, we're doing this again. Yeah, we are, because we have to. We look at the success or the lack of success in our students, and we have to be able to meet their needs. Just like any teacher, you get a brand new group every year and they are different. Period 1 is different from period 6. It's just the way it is. And one cohort is very different from the next cohort. We recommend adoption of our new curriculum, and we thank this board for allowing us to purchase that curriculum. When I stepped into this office, we had textbooks that were outdated from the 90s. Covers were torn off. They were in horrible shape, and we were not allowed to order any new materials. We hadn't gone through an adoption in many, many years. Our AP courses were really close to being outdated. Your textbooks have to be up to date in order for them to be considered AP college level textbooks. And so that adoption we've adopted since I have been in the curriculum office of new math. Kirsten Math, a new curriculum for our ELA department. We've updated many curricular resources. Last year we adopted some resources for, and you don't really adopt a resource for a high school class, but we purchased resources, and I'll show you what some of those are for active classroom, social studies, some science. We had a 5-year plan to look at our core classes and to try to get the curriculum purchased for them. So we have 517 active courses in our course description catalog, if you will. And okay, Melanie, but you just said you have to do all of these things and you have to align, and you have 10 different departments, and how many different courses do you have? And by the way, I'm a social or history major with an English minor, and if you ask me to revise a trigonometry course, we're in a lot of trouble. You ask me to look at the algebra course, I'm still going to ask for help. The standards are unbelievable for all of our courses, and we have to make sure that they align and that they are current, and that our teachers have the resources they need to teach those courses. So how do we do this? Well, you all fortunately allowed us to introduce PLCs into our district a few years ago, to reintroduce it, and not do PLC light, but to do it right. And we use our PLCs. You gave us embedded calendar time. Very thankful for that. We started out with twice a month, and we went to once a week, finally. And our PLCs really are spearheading those changes. That's where the curriculum needs to be discussed. That's where the students need to be talked about. That's where your data actually applies. So we are thankful for those PLCs, and they saved us in this transition, by the way. We went from isolated silos to district PLCs, and our teachers said, we want to stay district-wide. We don't need to meet individually. We want to stay where we are to help best benefit our students. So I use our professional learning communities. We have annual summer curriculum revision. Thank you to grants, I will say. Our grants directors have always been very kind to the curriculum and professional development department. And so each summer, mostly we deal with our core teachers, our core math, English, science, and social studies classes. Obviously math and English because they're tested. Our science now is tested even more so. And I would dare say it's probably a matter of time before our social studies becomes one of the tested curriculum. And we formed, when I first started, I know that teacher leadership is critical. If you don't have the buy-in and the support of your teachers, it won't matter what we do. And so 2 goals I had were to open the doors and get people to talk to one another. That was one, open your doors. High school teachers, we are all very notorious for closing our doors, and that's our safe space, right? Now I have a captive audience, and I apply the skill of the art of teaching. And sometimes I don't always apply the skill consistent with, Mrs. Smith across the hallway. So we've been really lucky to form this curriculum cadre, and they're comprised of 4 core teachers, department chairs from each of the sites. We have an ESS member also, and we talk about curriculum, changes at the state, what's going on with our students. So again, we look at revision. I use them along with, and most of them are department chairs, to facilitate and allocate information from the district to the sites, and they bring information back. So it is a symbiotic relationship, and it benefits all of us. There have been times I thought, are we really useful in this current situation? And we rely heavily on that teacher leader group. And then, of course, we have annual course description guide meetings, and we look to see what do we need. Are there any new courses? I ask the teachers every year, send me any revisions or any courses that you might want to present or promote in your schools. And so that's comprised of our, we meet with CTE, Steve Sykes is on that, both of our principals, our guidance counselor from each site, our APs from each site, and Chantel and Alistair also serve on that, because instruction and curriculum go hand in hand. And so when we're looking at courses, how can we best support them? And then I also want to say we have a PLC cadre, and that, or PLC Guiding Coalition Group, that has been instrumental in supporting our PLC groups, and they are a district committee. So they go out and help support the PLC process. So Dave mentioned that, we have some curricular resources that we use. Mathxl, you can see, is all of our math. And the math teachers overwhelmingly chose to use this. I think we've had Mathxl now for, I want to say 5 to 6 years. I'm looking at Dave, who's the guy that renews all of our or Gina. I'm like looking at them for a date. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Houghton Mifflin HMH is our English curriculum that the board approved last year. And by the way, Mathxl is online. Houghton Mifflin Into Literature, which is their newest package, is also an online component. The textbook is accessible to our students, which really did allow us. We could teach total HMH, regular, without Edgenuity, English classes online to our virtual kids. Same with math. Gizmos is something we purchased for our science teachers. A lot of virtual labs for our teachers. We can't go places. We often, I don't know if you all recall or know how costly and expensive lab equipment is, but it's unbelievably expensive. And so Gizmos allows some virtual science activities that our kids may not have been able to participate in. Active Classroom is for our social studies, and that's quite a component. That package is amazing. It makes me want to be in school teaching history again, because it's got all sorts of resources, current events, access to political documents, White House documents, all in one place, by the way, which is very helpful to a teacher. They spent time this summer aligning Active Classroom with our courses. So they took our course map, suggestions from our teachers, and they aligned that program to our courses, which is amazing. We don't even know the depth of what we can use yet because it's so new. AP, we offer advanced placement courses, multiple courses at both sites. And then of course, Edgenuity we use for our AOI and our credit recovery. And there's so many, there's an exhaustive list. This is not everything that we do. And I will say that poor Dave in the IT department, I laugh 5 years ago when we made the transition to one-to-one, and I'm going to talk about that next. I laugh about it being an unholy alliance between curriculum and technology. On a Wednesday, we were putting our plan together for curriculum, and on a Friday, we ended up purchasing devices to go one-to-one. And so that was quite a shift. And without technology helping us, we had 3-week sessions during the summer with all of our teachers, and they used the students' devices to make sure that they knew how to use those devices. They started putting their coursework on Blackboard. And I will tell you, this one-to-one transition 5 years ago is why we are where we are. And when I speak with other curriculum directors and other teachers, even our own teachers, they are so thankful that we did this. Now, I must tell you, they weren't thankful 5 years ago. We had people threaten to quit. We had people in tears. It was horrible. Dave even baked cake for these trainings. It was the most amazing thing. And still, people were terrified. You know, it's the fear of the unknown. And I will be honest, I absolutely agree with Mr. Kirby when he said it is not fun to teach in a virtual environment. So when I started hearing the newscasters say, oh, everybody's just going to go online, I looked at my husband and I said, oh, people don't understand what that means. And so the complexity of what we pulled off in our district and many districts across the nation is, it's unprecedented. I really believe that. So after one-to-one, I want to talk, curriculum. Oh, that's a little bit about curriculum. And I know I'm already feeling the daggers in my back about my time. I want to talk for a moment about teaching. Teaching is a profession that creates all other professions. We know this, right? But what makes one teacher better than another? What makes kids love their teachers? It's not the curriculum. It's the art of teaching. It's the instruction. What does that look like? And I'll be honest with you, Marzona wrote a book, The Art and Science of Teaching. We studied that as a staff a few years ago, but that title could not be more apropos. There are some teachers who have the art. The art is the how, the skill is the what. And so we looked at building capacity in our staff. That's what we've done since this curriculum office opened. Through professional learning, through coaching, we have an instructional coach in our district, and actually Chantel also helps coach because she's a math teacher. And so she helps with math and science. Teacher leader development was really important in building that capacity in our staff, and curriculum development. All of those things go into instruction. So we talk about assessment, and no one loves the big assessment word. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, we've gone from the days of summative at the end and not being able to do anything to having benchmarks and posts. And there's assessment for learning, which enables your teachers to inform their instruction. There's assessment as learning so that your students self-reflect, and that's where the magic is. In the middle is where the magic is. When you get a student to self-reflect, to set goals and achieve those goals, to self-assess, that's where it's magic. And then there's the assessment of learning, which is often your formative. It's at the very end. So what did we do that worked, right? Did it work? That department is tough. I'll be honest with you, in the environment that we are in right now, we are all virtual testing. Everyone is terrified because, of course, the curriculum is slowed down when you don't have kids show up to every virtual meeting that you have. I was in a meeting the other day with the PLC teachers, and they're so funny. All of a sudden, my screen is going everywhere, and the boxes are disappearing. They're readjusting, and I was like, what are you guys doing? And I was just kept talking, you know, and Amanda Sheila said, Mel, we're showing you what it's like to teach online. I need you to know this is what we see. We were talking about the incident at the Capitol last week, and social studies teachers, and I was a social studies teacher, and I said, you know, part of me was so excited and wanted to be in the classroom to teach, and the other side of me said, not in this environment, not the way we're teaching now, because so much of looking at your students and proximity is that instructional strategy of being close to your kids, reading your audience. And they said, you know, it's terrifying because we can't see them. They don't turn their camera on. They leave the camera off at times, or they get up and dance in the middle of the class. You know, it's just craziness. It's stuff that I would never have thought we would be doing at this point in our teaching. So these are some of the assessments that we have. Obviously, we create our assessments in-house. For our our bench, and our post, we use Galileo. I have asked for that data collection system to be reinstated. We had looked at building assessments using Blackboard and warehousing them there, but that was before COVID hit, and that really punctured one of our tires, to be honest with you, not to be able to have that assessment data collection. So CTANs are competency tests that we're working on all the time. AZ M², obviously, AZ Merit, you know, our reading and our math. Azella, we have a new math test or science test this year that's being piloted in high school and other grade levels, which is very complex. If we don't align the curriculum to those tests, then we aren't meeting those standards that I talked about earlier. Science assessment has changed. AccuPlacer, we also arranged that with CAC so that our kids are ready to take those courses at CAC. ACT, SAT, ASVAB, our guidance counselors have those CTE program assessments, and this is our busy season for assessment. And it's like every day there's assessment going on. And then, of course, a week long of AP testing in May. So this graphic was extremely appropriate, I think. When you think about textbooks and a teacher walking into their classroom, we told our teachers, take everything home that you need. And by the way, it's virtual. So you're gonna have to figure out how to get it all into Blackboard and share it with your students. Our teachers had to learn to video their lessons and post them in Blackboard. They had to learn how to use Teams to engage their kids. To set up that synchronous meeting instead of always being in a virtual asynchronous modality. They had to be connected in all sorts of social platforms. They had to figure out all of these things represent what our current teachers are doing right now. Some of them are doing an amazing job. Some of us are stressed out and very tired and feeling very ineffective. So I thought this was very appropriate. Where we are right now, we also brought 141 Ingenuity courses in for our online students. Each of those courses has to be modified and customized. It's like giving someone, I'm gonna give you the full buffet, but you don't need that full buffet. So I need to cut it down so that it's consumable. And the AOI that online school has probably, as Dr. Beebe can attest, comprised 90% of my life this year. Well worth it. And I'm going to present to you in just a moment some student data that we received. But 141 courses and supporting those courses, getting those teachers ready. I would like to say thank you on behalf of the curriculum department, and I will say even the teachers of our district for supporting our PLCs, for supporting and allowing us and respecting the calendar time requests that we've made, and just for your continued support and respect for our educators. It means everything to us. So I thank you very much for that. Are there any questions?
No, I think we just thank you. We know that we really appreciate all the work that's been done. I know the AOI, since it got rolled out at the beginning of the year, you went from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour overnight. And so we just truly appreciate all the work that you and your staff and everybody has done, and all the teachers specifically. I know everybody is doing yeoman's work.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm impressed. I think, did you ask Jack what our CTE, or Joe, what the CTE departments are doing? And if I may just say this, our fine arts departments are doing performances via video. I mean, our teachers are amazing. I've asked a couple of teachers to go to the PLC summit in February, and they're like, you know what, without me telling them, this is how far we've come. Oh, I'll just video my lesson and I'll put it up on Blackboard for the kids, and they know that they can just check in there and they'll be able to do their lessons from there. It's like, there are some silver linings to where we find ourselves right now. So again, thank you. This next presentation, and I promise to be brief, I'm hoping that you were able to see it, a little bit of the results. We decided we better survey our kids and our parents and see how are they feeling. Dr. Beebe talked about the F list earlier. I think, Mrs. Harrington, you referred to, kids feel like maybe they don't have to perform like they used to or participate. What we found was it was very telling of our students. This says projection for 2021. It's not, it's our current enrollment. And if you look, and I'm sorry, my old eyes, I'm going to have to squint a little, but Union is our modified in person there in black. Vista is the modified in person, and they are in the gold. And then did I get that right? Modified in person. And then our Vista AOIs is in red, and the Union AOI is in gray. So as you look at that, you'll see we had about 1/3 of our population on AOI when we began. At the semester, we shifted a little bit, and we had kids go back to the campus in modified in person, but we had an equal number switch to AOI. So it's very telling when you look at some of the comments that our students made in the survey. And I'll be honest with you, anyone who's ever tried to get a high school student to write more than 3 sentences that are incomplete, honestly, that those sentences are incomplete already, these kids wrote paragraphs. They wanted to be heard. And that was an amazing thing for me to read. Very moving comments from our kids. They needed to be heard. And so as we start with the survey overview, we had 1,217 of our students participate. Now, I have to tell you, out of 3,700 students, that's phenomenal in our district. I could ask a kid in person in class and 2 of them would answer and the other 25 would just look at me, right? We gave them an opportunity and they wanted their voices heard. And 435 of our parents participated. You know, would I love to see 3,700 and 3,700 parents? Yes, but this was very telling. And you can see they're almost equal in the distribution. So we asked, what are the reasons for choosing online? We wanted to know, why did you choose this modality? And if you notice that the students' responses are in gold and the parent responses are in the gray. The biggest overwhelming reason was fear of COVID. The second was a flexible schedule. That's what an online school does. It offers flexibility. The third was to support their family members. And I will tell you, many of our students are supporting their family members by working, by babysitting, by feeding their siblings, preparing meals for the family, and that was overwhelmingly displayed in the student comments. The child decided, we didn't ask the children if they decided. Okay, so you see that, and then other reasons, obviously, for choosing. But the top ones were the 3 you see there. So why are you not doing so well, right? We asked them, what's going on? In AOI, why are you kids not engaging? Why are you not turning in your work? And by the way, this is nationwide. If you read articles and statistics, they will tell you this is across the board. It's the only thing that allows me to go to sleep at night, and it's the same thing that keeps me up at night, is that we are not in this alone. It's not just us, right? And I have to remind our teachers, because we often get so hyper-focused on our kids that we forget the world is involved in this. You know, everyone's going through this the same way. So if you notice, the overwhelming, by far, distractor for classwork or coursework is helping parents and other family members. Cell phones ran a good second. And then you look over at internet connectivity might be a problem for some of our students. And notice the reasons: video games, helping students with their homework, helping parents, playing outside. I had to laugh. I'm so thankful that there's a high school student somewhere that still loves to go outside and play. Their friends, I thought their friends would be the biggest distractor, but it wasn't. So you can see we've got a wide range of reasons from our students. So the short survey responses, oops, I'm so sorry. How could teachers better support you? This was a question that was not required. 47% of our students, 47% of the parents responded, and over 30% of our students did. We asked them if they could share anything they think is important for adults at your school to know. Again, that question wasn't required, and you can see the percentage of responses, and we've got some of those that I'll share with you. So we did a Wordle. We took the responses from our students, and if you notice that middle word, the biggest word was the most frequently used word. And you look at those words, it's very telling. Work, teacher, school, students, time. Stressful. You cannot, we cannot ignore the stress our kids are under. Their motivation shifted from being at school, being carefree, happy teenagers, most of them, to now I'm helping my family just survive. So our AOI student survey themes, our kids struggle with the 4.5 hour requirement for attendance. They have to be in Ingenuity for 4.5 hours a day to be considered full-time. Not in just one course or not in each course, just overall, are you active in the system? And we can track that. We can see that was a very tough thing for our kids. What do you mean I have to work 4.5 hours? We did research throughout the state to find out in other online schools, what is the average? Well, in order for these kids to get through an Ingenuity course in the time that we've allotted, that's the minimum they have to be in. And so we tried to set it up for our kids to be successful, to meet the needs for attendance, but to also meet the needs to complete the course. Our kids are stressed out due to the course. The tests They want them open, but they want them open at 10, 11, and 12 o'clock at night, right? They don't want them open during the day for various reasons. They chose this for flexibility, some of our students. They weren't. So that's something that we really have to talk about. If we're going to have an AOI, we need to maybe talk about hours for submission of work. What does that look like? Live teaching sessions for difficult concepts. Our teachers offer office hours. They offer those synchronous meetings with their students. Now they're doing it weekly. So our online teachers are meeting weekly, not just the first week. Now they're offering sessions. We can't mandate them, but we do ask we offer them. And some of our teachers are doing amazing things. It's really quite amazing to see and hear the responses from our kids and our teachers. Those AOI teachers have really stepped up. Responding to email quickly.
Discuss that just a little bit about, you can't mandate that they have.
Well, you have an open office hour time.
Right.
So that's for students to come to you for extra help. We also have online tutoring at the site. So not at the sites, but it's virtual. We have virtual tutoring. But let's say you want to do an active, we've got AP courses. And as an old AP teacher, I wanted to meet with those kids weekly, not just during office hours. So it's really difficult. I might schedule a Teams meeting, but it might be outside of the classroom time, or it could be inside of the classroom time, and your kids don't always show up for that. So they make a choice. It's just like if I offer a practice session on Saturdays, and I've told my kids you have to be there, but some of them don't show up, I can't penalize them for that. It penalizes them. Really, they penalize themselves because they're not taking advantage. So our teachers offer, and some of our teachers, by the way, are teaching 16 different courses online. So you try to think about scheduling during the day, synchronous meetings every day with your 14 different classes. It's impossible. You can't. So they've learned to group their students together and offer sessions during the week, but they're teaching multiple different courses and different sections. A teacher can have English 9 through honors and regular through AP Lit and Lang. I mean, it's craziness. And so to try to mandate that they show up to that synchronous meeting, they do the first week, Jack, but Mr. Hennis, I'm sorry, President Hennis, but what they do is they offer those. They're trying to engage the kids.
So Mel, I guess the question is, is it the same kind of issue that you've got a teacher teaching too many people, or, I mean, do you need more? I mean, obviously, teaching 16 courses is, different various levels. It's
It is.
probably not the norm.
Right. Well, we try to keep in AOI, we try to keep our teachers in their content area, obviously.
Right.
But we also offer electives. And so we only have X amount of teachers to teach online because we still have our campuses, and we took from the campuses to staff our AOI with our AOI teachers. Some of those teachers, by the way, are still teaching on campus and online. So they're doing a hybrid schedule for a teacher, which makes it really difficult. We have kids who opt out. Mrs. Harrington was right in some ways. Our kids opt out. If they realize that they don't have to show up, nobody's going to come to the door and say, get in this classroom right now. A virtual classroom, it's like out of sight, out of mind, President Hennis, in some ways. And they're penalized in that if they don't do the assignment or they don't get the extra help, their grades do suffer. And there's a transition here with our kids. Online learning is not easy. It just isn't. It's not easy for the teacher, and it certainly isn't easy for students. And I think about our freshmen who came to us from the elementary district, going from Google Classrooms to Teams, and they didn't have computers in their district. As Dr. Beebe said earlier, we haven't met some of those kids because they're online. So it's very difficult then, President Hennis, to make them show up to one of those optional meetings. It's an open meeting. And teachers might talk about, we're going to talk about conventions this week. Or in math, I'm gonna lecture, if you will, not lecture, but teach about and answer questions on this topic. And some students don't take advantage of that. So communication, obviously, we want it immediately, right? But their immediately doesn't fall into 8 to 5, 8 to 4. And our teachers are often unlocking tests and helping those students at 9 and 10 o'clock at night because they want to be flexible. We've changed some things. We cut back the coursework in Ingenuity. I looked at the number of hours we were asking our students to do and more aligned them with the modified in person. Teachers are conducting those synchronous sessions with their students are online. And then our professional development in response to the needs of our teachers, engagement strategies for those synchronous sessions. It's hard for many teachers. We trained our teachers in strategies to support emotional and social learning. Again, we've got kids who feel like they are out there all by themselves. Modified in-person student survey themes, you can see workload, instruction, stress and mental health, what's happening. Very similar to the AOI. Go slower, more in-depth. Please engage me when I'm in front of you, right? When I'm here, don't have me do work. In defense of our teachers, I'm going to tell you, when you don't have kids show up on the asynchronous days, and you've got them in class and you can see them doing the work so you can give them a grade for something, it's hard not to say, complete this while you're here right now. And not to stand up and engage them in a different manner, because we are trying to get them to turn their work in. So stress and mental health, again, very difficult for our kids. Our January professional development, which Chantel, Alistair, and I sat down and planned, we surveyed the staff and the principals, what do you need? And then based on the survey of the students, and you can see, we taught, Alistair Mounts led one mandatory session, and it was on student voices and teacher moves. How do we respond to what our students are telling us? And I won't read through all of those, but it was amazing training. Student voices, we talked about curriculum and cutting back those essential standards. Have you really identified the essential standards truly? Have you cut as much of the extraneous curriculum or activities as you could have? Pride and Prejudice, do I really need to teach that? I've already taught satire. Do I have to teach Pride and Prejudice to my seniors? Maybe not. So you can see here our January offerings. I think Dr. Beebe already sent those to you, so I won't belabor those. Here were the words that stood out. We did a Wordle for our parents. There were some commonalities. Work is huge. Work, students, teachers, school. We got a lot of amazing comments. Thank you. We know you guys are doing the best you can. That was wonderful. Not all of them were negative. You know, I have to laugh. One of our students said, tell the English teachers to back the heck off. And I laughed because I'm an English teacher and I get it, right? The English teacher's just trying to get them to do their work and teach more. Tell them to slow down. Our parent survey themes were attendance. Please make it consistent. Don't have multiple ways of taking attendance. Mostly positive and understanding the difficulties that the district is trying to meet or go through as we meet the needs of our kids. Communication, please get back to us. Update our grades more often and more routinely. Make sure that we have agendas and calendars. Overall, the workload's too much for our kids. They're not getting it done. Clear expectations. Please, more instruction and less working on the assignments. They're concerned about learning. They want to make sure our kids don't lose the learning momentum, right? And I don't know how to ensure everyone across the world that that's going to happen, but we're maintaining. Concerned about mental health. Parents are concerned about their kids. The isolation that you mentioned earlier. Just not being connected.
Tell me a little bit in the instruction where it says overall workload is too much, that they want more instruction and less work. So how do you?
Too many assignments.
Too many assignments?
Yeah, so what we did,
You know kids are actually getting things other than through assignments or testing?
yeah, and so you assess your students. You know, teachers do checks for understanding from the minute those kids walk in the door till the end when they leave. And so what they're saying is we can't keep up with the workload. And so we've asked our teachers then to look, are we really giving them too much? I'm not going to call it busy work. To me, that would be demeaning to my teachers. It's not busy work. Anything we put in that curriculum was there for a reason. But if we were to teach every standard in every course, our kids it would take them something like 24 years to get through the class. You know, that's just the reality. So our teachers want to teach it all, right? They have a hard time cutting out something. What do you say in your course is not important? Well, I saw value in that for kids. I saw them they did well in this activity or this simulation. And so what we've asked them to do is cut back on less of the written work. How can you engage those kids in an activity that will show you that they're getting the same information? So that's kind of what we looked at, and how to engage our kids in a different manner than just, okay, open your books, you know, you need to make sure you answer this discussion question, or that, you know, we need to engage them at a different level and not just doing bookwork, not just completing an assignment. What does that look like? And I'll be honest with you, we had a student taking an online test, and the teacher had called and was as proctoring the test because they have to watch them take the final exam on their computer. And the father walked in the room, it was early afternoon, and he said, I have been calling you for an hour, where have you been? Well, she's in her room taking her test, she's in school. And the father and the daughter, the teacher witnessed this, listening, the father and the daughter went at it for about 3 minutes because he said, you will be available when I need you. And I think the transition from kids leaving their home and going to school, parents know that where they are, they're at school. When they're at home all the time, why aren't you doing what I need you to do at home? That separation isn't there. It's the same thing as professionals working at home. How do I turn that off? How do I disengage? How am I not working at 2 in the morning, right? Or how am I not doing laundry at 9 o'clock in the morning while I'm trying to teach? Do you see what I mean? There's not a separation there. And so I think that's a lot of it, is that we haven't made that as a society. We don't understand the difference. Percentages based on our parent survey that we just gave as far as enrollment projections for 21-22. And you can see, you know, in-person is by large the greatest request. We won't know until we actually register students, but that is where the greatest response was. However, we still have a large percentage of our students who want AOI. Oh, I'm sorry, that is the end of the survey.
When the lights go out?
Yeah, they did, sorry about that. Dave told me not to touch anything, so I'm not going to touch it. Thank you again for your time. I know I'm already getting the daggers in the back, but I had 2 presentations I had to give, so thank you for your time.
We sure really appreciate it, and that was a great presentation. We are down to items reserved for board action. We have item A, which is MOU for Gear Up. Just want to discuss a little bit about Gear Up.
Yes, we had a chance to talk about that earlier in the pre-meeting, but Gear Up, it really is, it's a program that is designed to help kids make that transition from high school to college. And it's something that we've had in our schools. And so at this time, the administration would recommend that you guys would approve the MOU through Gear Up for our district so that we can use that with our students this year again.
And just dollars associated with it, I'm just trying to, in the highlights, just kind of, if you would please.
Well, there is no, I have to look at my principles. There are no costs to the district in any way, shape, or form. So this is, there's no cost to us. It's just the benefit of the partnership.
Okay. That's even better.
Yes.
So, we have a recommendation by the district for, to approve the MOU for understanding for Gear Up. If I get a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU between Arizona Gear Up and the Casa Grande Union High School District as presented.
I would like, and a second by Joe. Is there any other further discussion on that topic? If so, all in favor, say aye.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hens?
Yes.
Mr. Herring? Sorry, Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
And Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
The motion approves and passes. We're down to item B, AD, and Arizona Department of Health Services, Ben Marsh, and learning modalities. Dr. Beebe?
President and members of the governing board, you know, we've had a lot of discussions this year about the modalities that we learn in. And I have not, as a superintendent, come forward and made a formal recommendation, but I'm going to do that tonight. One of the things I've appreciated is I think that we worked really hard to come up with the 2 learning modalities that we have in our district. And I think one of the reasons we had as long a run as we did with kids on campus in the fall is because we chose to do that hybrid model where we only had half of our kids on campus, which allowed us to do social distancing and distancing. I also know that the board, as we changed over the board really got behind the science, and really we use the ADHS benchmarks as that guide for us to determine when it might be safe for kids to be back on campus. I think as a district, we have to balance what's best for kids educationally and their social emotional well-being, and keeping our employees safe to deliver that education. And so the board has used that benchmark to guide when we came back to school, which we started on September 17th. The board also used that same benchmark and that science data to determine when it was unsafe and that we needed to go back to virtual learning. So I would recommend that the governing board, once again, use the ADHS benchmark as the science behind when it's safe for our kids to return, and that when we see at least 2 weeks of yellow and or green in 2 of the benchmarks, for 2 weeks, that we might deem it safe for kids to return to modified in person.
Any comments on that? I think we're all, as a board, are obviously recognize that having kids back in the classroom, even in our multiple group that we had, where we had the 2 days a week, that was the best avenue for keeping class sizes down to, as much of a minimum, keeping the risk. Tim and his crew did a wonderful job. All the teachers bought in, and we were very fortunate and it was safe. But like you've mentioned, right now, the state is in a very bad trajectory. It doesn't look like it's coming down anytime soon. I think if you showed me the latest numbers that we just saw earlier, and how the county is running, and this is 2 weeks back, running about 25%, 20 to 25% positivity, which is extremely dangerous. And so I think near term, the board's recommendation is to continue, follow your recommendation, continue what we did in the past. Okay, any other comments on that? Move down to item number C, which is donation. Did you have a motion, or do we have just continue what we're doing?
I'll make a motion. The administration would recommend that the board continue to use the ADHS benchmarks as the science behind when it's safe for our students to return to school, and that when we have at least 2 benchmarks in the yellow or green, that we would deem it safe then to return back to modified in person.
Okay, so that's just a continuation of the previous.
Continuation of the previous.
Continue with what we've been operating on. So a motion by Joe, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes,
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
And Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
thank you. We're down to item number C, which is donations. We have donations for the following donations: $400 from Brad Kepler to Grande Union High School Drama, Mathxl the Musical. $1,200 from Microchip Technology employees to the CGUHSD robotics team, and $5,000 from APS to Vista Grande High School for classroom supplies, all of which are tremendously appreciated. Okay, we are down.
We need a motion.
Need a motion to accept the donations as presented.
I motion to accept the donations as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any other discussion on that? With just a huge thank you to all that. That's a really nice group of donations there. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington? Yes. And Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Item number 8 is the consent agenda. Are there any items A through I that need to be pulled or discussed separately?
I would like to make the motion to approve the personal items as presented from A to I.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through I. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion there?
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
And Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
We are down. The only thing I saw in there, and I meant to, Staff Sergeant Hazard
Yes.
is retiring,
Yes, he is.
and he's been with the district for a while.
90, he came when I went over to the principal's office.
Yeah, so,
98,
since at least, right around 1998, he's been here.
in here a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's he was the junior ROTC, forever and ever. I remember when they first kind of started that program, and he did an amazing job and has fostered that program forever and ever. And just really wanted to tell him thank you and appreciate much all of the time and effort and all the kids that he's touched. Okay, we are down to item number 9, future agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to? If not, we can give it to Dr. Beebe another time.
President Hennis, members of the government, just wanted to remind you here that on January 29th, right here in this room, we will have the ASBA governing board training that you've all committed to be here for. I'll be here as well. So we'll get to spend the day together going through that training virtually. Also on that day, an 8 member photo for the website. So if you guys can be here by that, by 8:45, we'll get those photos done, and then we'll have the day to work together.
That'd be great. I'm sure Mary will remind all of us so that we show up at the appropriate time and place. If so, I would tender a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Get the motion.
I want to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
And a second?
I'll second.
And a second, and I just want to, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, you can say aye to it. I just need a roll call for everything else.
That sounds great. Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Everybody be careful, be safe. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Mays, for being here.
You can just tell a lot of guys on the computer.
I know, I'll take care of it. You're pretty good.